One of the biggest problems as stackers is that many of us will spend years learning how to buy precious metals. But not many of us really have an exit strategy in place for when we may need to sell it. And that becomes a big problem during times of volatility, price levels, investment decisions, and even an unexpected emergency. So today I want to talk about something that a lot of us tend to ignore or avoid, and that is your exit strategy. So let's talk about this in today's video. So let's go. Hi everybody, and welcome back to yet another video. So I want to start with the main counter argument for this entire video, and that is we should have a never sell mindset. Now, in some ways, I'm actually in full agreement with this because I believe that there is a long-term benefit to holding precious metals if and when a currency crisis takes hold in my lifetime. But the never selling idea can be emotionally comforting at times, and it's a solid way to maintain your assets, but you should hold on to these for as long as possible, but at some point you will need an exit strategy. Now, this doesn't mean that your exit strategy is going to require you to sell. I think in a lot of the cases it will, but it doesn't always have to mean that you need to abandon your precious metals forever. You don't have to sell them off and walk away and never participate in it again. You can utilize them for other options like retirement purposes, transferring wealth to family members. You can do it for charity, future swaps, or even paying down some bad debt. Now, these are just a few examples, and we'll cover all of them here in just a little bit, but while holding it forever does sound great, at some point, we all don't live forever, and we will need an exit strategy whether we like it or not. And if you've been following my channel for a while, you'll know that I did have a small stack at one point, at least I consider it small. And very recently, I did sell off a majority of that stack to pay off the bad debt. Now, the purpose behind this was to remove the financial constraints that were quite frankly annoying me and siphoning off hundreds of dollars a month that could have been put towards precious metals or other investments. Now, while painful and as difficult as it was to sell, it did allow me to hit a financial reset button in my life, and now I am able to restart my stack from the ground up without any financial limitations to hold me back. Now, this was a bit of an unplanned move, to be quite honest. It wasn't an exit strategy that I was planning to use, but it was in my back pocket as an option if I ever wanted to do so. And so I did make the move to sell, and I know many of you out there actually advised against doing it, but I wouldn't really see this as a moment of failure as a stacker, but rather more of a strategic move that I wanted to make going forward. Now, while I don't regret the move, it does still hurt a little bit to this day, but the removal of the debt is always going to outweigh any of that post-sale guilt that I might have. And I can now, again, stack with zero restrictions, and only issues I got to worry about is how much money I have each month and whatever the price of gold or silver is. Now, again, selling for clearing out your debt is one strategy that you can use. And now, as someone who has experienced it and actually done it, I would say that don't let the fear of where prices could go or the fear of a societal collapse or whatever it is stop you from doing what you know that you need to do. Yes, you may have to start your stack at a bit of a higher price point, but we all started somewhere. For myself, I started at $20 an ounce for silver, and restarting to start buying at 75 isn't really ideal, but the goal is to get ounces at the end of the day. So I just don't worry too much about the what ifs. Just get yourself in a better position to do better in the future. I mean, just imagine if you could clear out your debt, take the number that you're paying each month towards that debt, and imagine what that could get you in precious metals each month. Just trust me and when I say that it's worth it. Another strategy would be to buy land or rental property or businesses or just any sort of asset in general. And one of the things that I think when it comes to selling precious metals is that it's okay to move this type of asset into another asset. Selling just for cash simply because you want to make money, that can be okay, I guess, but as far as I go in my beliefs, it's sort of counterintuitive because why would you want to get into precious metals to escape the system just to get back into it again? But moving it into a different asset, like I said, with rental properties or businesses or whatever it is, as long as that asset can generate cash flow for future purchases, that's always going to be a solid move. Now, whether you do that with gold or silver, that'll be up to you. I personally like to go and move my silver first before the gold, but to each their own. But either way, selling precious metals, which is an asset, and moving that into a different asset is a good exit strategy to have and to take advantage of, as long as that asset can be profitable in the end, of course. Another event could be the unexpected emergencies. Now, sometimes things are going to happen and the money that we have might not be enough. Or if you decided to save in precious metals completely versus saving in a bank, then you may have to tap into your precious metals for your rainy day fund. Now, I think the situation can be split. I think half the people do sell for this type of situation and the other half won't, but that might be because they have something in the bank or other assets that they may prefer to liquidate first. Either way, unexpected emergencies will happen, and if you choose to sell to cover the cost of that, you shouldn't feel bad about it. Buying a new TV or a car that you had your eye on isn't really an emergency, but again, you need to determine what's considered an emergency and go from there. I don't think you should feel guilty to cover an unexpected event. Just don't try to sell to cover a poorly planned event. And another popular strategy that kind of combines two in one here, but they're a little bit different, and one is for retirement and the other is for wealth transfers. So if you plan on selling off like fractional gold or silver each month as a form of a retirement strategy, then that's just how it is. And a lot of people do that. I myself plan on doing this at some point, but depending on what your goals are, this may or may not be for you. But the other part of it that goes hand in hand is passing these down to family members. Apart from the retirement planning, the estate planning should be an option that is included in everybody's exit strategy. Because, like I said, we're all not going to be here forever, but if you do decide that your family members should inherit your stack, then that's kind of a no-brainer because, that's something we're going to discuss with somebody who's a professional in this area. And I'll give you a little bit of a personal story on this. We just had a family member who recently passed away, and while I didn't inherit this, someone else did, and let's just say they received a good size stack in gold and silver. But of course, not going through the probate and all those little things can help too, and that's not my area of expertise, so I'm going to avoid all that. But having your assets be legally ready to go and passed down with little interference as possible is something that we should all plan for. The metals are just going to be a component of that. And finally, one exit strategy, while it's not a complete exodus from the metals, but rather you could call it an asset to asset conversion, is to do a swap. Now, we've talked about this a lot on this channel, but swapping your silver into gold or your gold into silver based on what the GSR says is something that you can do as well. And I actually did this prior to selling my stack, and it does work. Being able to buy gold based on the price that you paid for your silver can give you massive discounts and even increase the ounces of gold or silver that you own over time if you play the ratio back and forth. Now, while you aren't really selling, you kind of are in some ways, but really you're just converting your silver into gold or the other way around. Whether you do that with platinum, palladium, whatever that is, that's going to be up to you. But for the simplicity of this video, we're just going to be talking about gold and silver for right now. And these strategies are essentially the most popular and the biggest form of exit strategies that you can do as a stacker. But of course, it's never that simple. There's definitely other things that will get in the way or other factors that you need to consider. And if you try doing anything when it comes to buying or selling in the past year, you're going to know that there are many unknowns out there that can impact what you may receive, whether that's in metals or in cash. Things like premiums, the dealer buyback rates, taxes, price fluctuations, all of these things are going to either benefit you or cause you some harm depending on what's happening in any given time. And like I said, if we did any sort of buying, or especially if you tried to sell in the last 6 months, you're going to know that you didn't always get what you wanted. Silver, let's just say at $100 was really $120 if you were trying to buy something, or it was maybe $70 if you were trying to sell. Availability and what the dealers would accept also played a factor for us, because some places wouldn't even accept 90% silver, and if that's all you had, then you may have been out of luck. But the reality is there are a lot of things that can determine what you will get and what you can do. The spot price of gold or silver is not going to be your true liquidation value, which is why planning is going to be very important. When it comes to emergencies, like I mentioned before, you're going to be kind of forced to accept what's happening in this current time, regardless of how you feel. But the rest of the strategies you can kind of sort of say yes or no to. But that's why planning matters more before the volatility hits, not during or even after. Now, of course, the emotional side of stacking is going to exist too. Whether you're panic selling or FOMO buying can go against anything that your strategy will do for you. And this video has been mainly about exit strategies, but having a buying strategy can reduce or even eliminate that emotional decision making that we will all experience at some point in time. And this is why having a plan and being able to adapt matters. Your goals and your preferences, they're going to change over time, and that's totally fine. But just make sure that you can satisfy them without having to self-destruct yourself in the process. And I like to do this by using the GSR method. It tells me what metal I should buy at any given time, and from there I just find what's cheapest in terms of premium and maybe perhaps whatever my goals are. But remember this, there isn't a one-size-fits-all strategy. What I like to do might not work for you, and it doesn't really have to. You just got to do what you like and work your plan, but you should be open to changing it if you need to. Because in the end, stacking isn't about endless accumulation. Yes, it is a hobby, but it's about using them strategically to strengthen your life financially over time. Whether your plan is going to be for debt freedom, retirement, legacy, you should still have a plan no matter what. So, that being said, guys, let me know what you think. What does your exit strategy look like? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye, guys.